Hello, super quick intro. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can solve the Hanayama Arrows puzzle. Now before we get into the solution, be warned, this puzzle is super hard to control all the pieces. It's super hard to get each piece where it needs to be for it to then separate and take the arrows out. So if you don't get it right first time or the first 10 times, just keep trying. It is annoying, it is frustrating when things fall where you don't want them to fall, but stick with it and you will solve the arrows puzzle eventually. Now with that in mind, let's get straight into the solution. So here we have a fully assembled arrows puzzle, and as I said in the intro, this is super fiddly and you will probably see why as we are going along. But before we get into the solution, first of all I'm going to show you how and why it solves. Now at first glance it looks as if these 4 arrows are all exactly the same, apart from the engraving which on this one, which actually says arrows in there. Now this arrow, the one with the engraving, is actually slightly different, and the difference of this one is why this puzzle solves. And the difference is in the tail. So if we look down here, we can see that very slightly, this side of the tail is actually lower and at a slightly different shape to this side here. And it's this lower side, this thinner side, this sort of slightly differently angled side that is the key to getting this arrow out first, which then allows us the space to get the other 3 arrows out as well. Now if we look at the shape of the heart, it's all about how you arrange these 4 arrows. So you'll see that there's a side or a space on each side for 1 arrow. So we're going to have to get the first arrow out, we're going to have an arrow occupying that space, an arrow occupying that space, and an arrow occupying this space here, so that we can get this arrow out. Now which way around you do it doesn't matter. You can use this end or this end. I'm going to show you using this end here. So first of all, for the actual solution, we want the arrow's arrow, the one that's coming out first, to be at this end, to my right hand side. It can be on the left, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's at one end. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold them in this position. If this arrow isn't in the right position, to move them around, the easiest way that I've found that is repeatable is if you just simply pick the 2 up that you want to swap around. Let's say I want to move this one this way. All I do is pick them up, turn them around, and then put them back in position. And you can just repeat that process until you get this arrow at this end. So we've got the arrow's arrow in the right position. We are going to do that movement that I just did, but we're going to turn the middle 2 arrows sideways. Now what we want is now to slide this arrow, which is the arrow that's coming out first. We want to slide it in the middle of these 2 arrows here, so we want to get in between those, but we need to make sure we turn it the right way. So you can see here, the low side is this side here. I want that side facing outwards on here. So the not low side, the high side, is going to be scraping up this arrow as it comes out. Now this is the fiddly bit. It's all fiddly, but this is especially fiddly. So my aim now is to get that arrow, this arrow, in the middle of those 2. So I'm going to try and separate them and get them in there, and then follow it in with the tail. So I'm in this position here. So we've got these 2 arrows on the side, we've got this arrow at the back, and all we should now have to do is pull the arrow, tilt it to this side, and separate it from there. For the next ones, it's still not over in terms of its fiddliness. The next one is just as tough if you like, but we've got a little bit more space to maneuver with. We're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're back in that original orientation. Doesn't matter which one goes where, because these arrows are all exactly the same. We're going to pick this one up, or these 2 up, we're going to turn them sideways, we're going to do that exact same thing and slide this one in the middle. We're going to rearrange the tails so that they are also in the right position. And this is the fiddly part. So once we're in this position, we can then, because we've got them here again, we've got 1 arrow occupying this space, 1 arrow occupying this space. But now we've got the freedom or more space because we don't have another arrow occupying one of these ends. And what that means is we can just slide that middle one out. And then all you have to do is sort of do a bit of shaking, and these two arrows fall out very easily. And that is how you separate the very fiddly arrows puzzle. And putting them back together, putting all 4 arrows back in the heart, is just as fiddly as taking them apart was. So the first 2 are very simple. We're going to come in, we're going to place it on one side, occupying one of those spaces. We need to make sure as well that you remember that the arrow is the one that goes in last, so make sure you don't put that one in first, otherwise you won't be able to do it. We're going to put the second one in, again nice and easily, and then we're going to hold them in position out on each side, and that allows us to then slide the third arrow in. Doesn't matter whether you come in from the top or the bottom now, because there's space for both sides. I'm going to slide that one in and into this position, and then we need to rotate. We're going to try and keep the... oh, we've not done it. So now what we need to do is get an arrow on each side and an arrow rotated in here. And again, this is super fiddly. This can be very annoying. You might get it in the right position and then suddenly it'll all fall out of place. But what we need to do now is get an arrow on each side. And we're just going to use this arrow as like a battering ram in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure the low side is on the outside of the puzzle. We're going to try and get it in the middle of those 2 arrows that are going to occupy the space on the sides. Again, this is so annoying to get it in the right position, so we'll work it from here. So we'll try and jam those in there and then move these tails around, and what we can do then is slide that 4th arrow in and then rearrange them, get them in the nice order that they were in before, and that is the very annoying, very fiddly reassembly of the arrows puzzle. So there we go. That is how you disassemble the arrow puzzle and then reassemble all 4 pieces. As you saw from the video, it is super fiddly. It's so fiddly, it's so annoying. You think you've got it right, or you get it in just the right position, and then something slips and you're back to square one and you have to start all over again. That will happen again and again and again when you are trying it. Even when you know the solution, it's still so hard and so annoying to do. But stick with it and you will eventually get those arrows out, I promise. Now, if you ever enjoyed this video and you want to solve more puzzles like the arrow puzzle, then there is a link below to some more Hanayama puzzles. Now, if you want to see more step-by-step solutions for more of these Hanayama puzzles, and if you want to see me struggle through them all for the first time, then click my face here to subscribe. You can go straight to some of those videos just over there, and I will see you next time. Peace!